optimized Genesis sequence.
And the prize for the best intro video goes to Devox. Amazing video, guys. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here in such a high number. It is a bit scary, I must confess. A lot, very scary, especially knowing the kind of people that attend this conference. So I would estimate more than 2,000 years of experience in the field in the room right now. My lucky guess. All right, I'm Victor. I'm coding in Java for too long. And for the last 10 years, I'm doing consultancy and training in various companies throughout Europe, mostly on architecture and refactoring. And the things that I will share with you today come straight from the architecture workshop that I do every week almost. All right, if you want to keep closer, you should join my community. I meet with the guys every month to talk about various things. And I also have a YouTube playlist with a lot of talks. Okay, so, and life's complicated, and I'm trying to balance work and life. Good. So, ever heard someone saying it depends? If you hear someone saying this more than once a week, that guy is probably converting himself into an architect slowly, right? It depends. So the first law of architecture is that everything is a trade-off. So please, guys, do not take anything I say now for granted. Don't just take it for granted and use it. No. Critical thinking in your context, analyze pros and cons, weigh them, talk with people, brainstorm, play roles. One should be the skeptical, one should be the enthusiastic, one should be the genius in the room. Play roles, brainstorm on these concepts in your particular context. Now, I do workshops continuously, and I come to code bases and I ask people, why does the code look like that?
Brother,
And they say, I don't know. Second law of architecture, please document any decision you take in an ADR. Who uses ADR in the house? Oh, too few, 20%. Guys, architectural decision record is like developers taking accountability, taking ownership about their design. Have that in your Git repos with every change impacting more stuff. Oh, and the famous over-engineering that was poisoning the architecture world in the early 2000s, thanks mostly to waterfall, right? Leading us to think in advance for many, many years. You're going to see an example of over-engineer today. So the third rule, in my opinion, is that evolution is inevitable. So what you can do is to guard the evolution with fitness functions, like you probably have read already in the building evolutionary architecture. Guard your transitions and your moves with some metrics that you can monitor. Load testing, I don't know, resilience testing, architectural testing, stuff like that. And like Venkat puts it, no decision in architecture is a binary decision, 1 or 0. No, it's a transition, it's a gradient, right? You can go from no to full adoption. Did anyone say CQRS? Anyway, you'll see. So REST API. So what's the best way to start talking about this is just to focus on the idea of a contract and of a, yeah. So let's hear the guy that wrote TCP/IP, robustness law. Be conservative in what you do, but liberal in what you accept from others. So you should be more lenient when it comes to calling others, but yourself should be very strict in what you do. What is 1? What's 1 called? Major. What is 2? Minor and patch. Thank you. So major would force my clients to update, to upgrade, it will change them. It's a breaking change in the contract, and I want to play a game with you. If I'm not now using 1.2.0, would I be able tomorrow to use 1.2.1 from my library? Yes, because yes. Would I be able to use 1.3.0? Depends, probably yes. Would I be able to use 1.1.0 going down? Unlikely. So the proper answer is, it depends. Thank you very much. Depends whether you're using the features that were added in 1.2.0, right? And there could be valid reasons for going down for some, I don't know, security, CVE, I won't judge. If it's temporary, I don't judge. And how about 2.0? Thank you, Spring. 2.0, yeah, probably no. That's it's 2-0. And the game continues. Please, this is a request that my system takes from someone. This is a response that my system sends back to someone. Not the same endpoint, different endpoints. But this is my REST API. Let's play a game, guys, and I want you to shout at me because you are pretty far from me. How can I breaking change this contract? Come on, hit me. What can I do in the request or in the response so that my clients will be forced to change? Change the URL. I mean, you mean this. What else? Remove what? Not URL, leave the URL, something else. What else? Rename properties, why would you do that? Phone number. Yes, thank you. More. Different REST pattern. What do you mean by pattern? Method. Oh, yes, put can convert to a post. Yes, what else? Add new what? Not nullable. Add more parameters here, which are required, you mean. Correct. Next, come on. Change the data type. Oh, I like that. Who takes age as a string? It's a classic. What else? Come on, hit me. Change the date format. Please never use this format if you are allowed. I beg you. Do not use that. Round of applause for ISO standard, not that. Kill that format. What else? By the way, it's March 1st or 3rd of January. You get the point. What else? So this, phone number, URL, what else? An array, that's a good one. Headers. I don't have headers on my slide. Good. Okay, this, and then phone number. You said, repeat there. Add more parameters to where? New attribute required, we discussed. What else? My mouse. A new currency. Ooh, that's a good one. If I add a new currency that I support, is that a breaking change? No. If I support tomorrow something else, Canadian dollar, huh? What else? Other countries, now that's a breaking change. Where is Belgium here, guys? Should add Belgium, right? What else? Remove what? A field. Oh, that's easy. From the response. Kill a field. Done. Is that a valid email? I mean, ooh.
Ooh. What does this button do?
What else?
Please,
Sorry.
do not push the button. Ooh.
What else? Add validators, regular expression, minimum length for strings, patterns, whatever. What else? Change what? Data type. It was said already. Someone said arrays. Ooh, that's a fun one. Let's put an array because there might be multiple phones. Beautiful. Oh, XML is back. XML is back, right? XML is back. What else? Response time. Did you say time? Wow, that's an evil one. Let's respond the guys back in 1 minute. That deserves a special round of applause for the evilness and the very well. Respond them in 1 minute. Kill them all. Very well. What else? What? Oh, go to comma separated values. Okay, I think we had enough fun. So yes, all the things you said are on the screen now. Take a shot. Right? The green ones are non-breaking. Yeah, you said them all basically. Okay, so that's fun. And then you have to do this breaking change. What next? Tell me. V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. Tell me when to stop. V7, V8, V9. All in parallel. Beautiful, you've been there. Who has been there? More than 2 major versions in production for at least a year. Thank you, I'm with you with this. Okay, so the first problem is to find out who you're gonna break with your change, correct? By trace IDs, by authorization tokens, by somehow find out who the hell is calling me. Then wonder if I break them. And that's an empirical approximation. By looking at their past payloads, you can guess maybe I'm not impacting them at all. Fingers crossed. It's a probability thing, right? After you find them, you need to, you can't just phone them and say you migrate tomorrow, so you need to support multiple parallel major versions. Beautiful. And your code is gonna be full by if version equal. Excellent. And then what you want to do to get out of that pain is to hunt your clients down and convince them to migrate. I don't want to go into details what things you can do. I don't want to get into details. Do not throw random errors just because they are on the old version. Don't do that, please. I beg you all. But I have a client that if random less than 001, throw random error. That's desperate, right? That's desperate, right? I mean, you get marked for life. It's called PTSD. PTSD. So to avoid breaking changes in the next API, I will make my API future-proof. Today, I only have a single email. But just in case, let's take an array. Beautiful. Just in case, that's the keyword. Today, I only work with work emails, with work phones. But just in case, let's take an array of types. Huh? Huh? And then the last one is the best one. Let's put a random list of attributes with key value, whatever you want inside. And inside the value over here, there is another array with more data. Hell, break loose in your client. Your client is dead. You just brain damaged your client, right? And that's actually a sign that the architect needs some psychological counseling. No, I'm really serious. He needs to gain back confidence after a traumatic experience. I mean, relax. We are not building monoliths anymore, you know. I hope. I mean, starting from scratch. I think we don't. Right? It's safe. So we used to. Anyone remember this versioning scheme? Under customer, you version. Technically speaking, is incorrect, and I realize that contains a little mistake. Don't ever do changes in live like this, please. But we used to do like that. There you go. Do you see where this is going? I have customer, I have order, I have invoice, so this is a monolith, correct? Beautiful. And then this is probably what you want to do, but then there is a scary idea that comes from the biggest e-shop of Romania. The CTO told me, hey, Victor, but wait, if we have to major version a microservice, isn't that really another microservice? You should get goosebumps right now. I'm talking about a different pipeline, different Git, different everything. Database makes things complicated, but yeah, you can go as far as that. Right, but more than discussing about and avoiding and dodging major breaking changes, the more interesting question is how fast can you detect that you broke your contract? Or how fast can you detect that? So I already posted the slides on my Twitter account, which is this. You can already download the slides, and there are links in the slides you can follow to get to my Git repository, in which, using the OpenAPI diff, I built a test which fails automatically if some developer, a junior or myself drunk, changes the contract I expose accidentally. Oops, build failed. Because I store the contract from yesterday on my Git and I cross-check that it's backwards compatible with it. Very good thing to have in-house. If you want to increase a bit the heat, you can go to contract, what's that called? Contract test, basically. Packed or Spring Cloud contract, which can actually fail a build if one microservice does not respond what the other microservice expects. It's a kind of a cross-Git repositories handshake, if you want. One contract from there moves in the other one, and if something is wrong, it blows up. Very fun, very fun. And also one big client in the Netherlands uses Renovate to automatically upgrade all the libraries, all the client jars for the services they want to call. There is a bot who tries to upgrade you. Don't you want to upgrade? Come on, upgrade. And if there is no compilation failure, it submits a PR. How cool is that? It's a good thing to have in your pipeline. Okay, let's switch a bit gears. Yeah, this is Spring. I'm sorry, but Jakarta is welcome also. Quarkus as well. Get mapping, customer, and customer is your holy domain entity. Domain model sacred entity. The most, at this point, you realize, some of you, that you don't have a domain model. I bet 20% of you don't have a domain model, which is perfectly fine. If anyone building serverless function as a service, AVS, Lambda, not sure if you really have a domain model in a very tiny bit of code, but if you do have really complexity, you need a domain model. And then you expose the domain model in your REST API as a JSON. What can go wrong? That's fast. What else? Everything. Now, point to point, come on. I could expose sensitive information. I could expose leak phone numbers, GDPR is in the house. What else? Expose too much in the sense that from a design point of view, I am leaking the structure of my most precious object in my application. And then the clients will start depending on it, and I will lose the ability to change it. Make sense? It freezes, and I've seen applications going down, basically this project failing because the same model in the backend was used in the huge swing front end application. And also fun that someone in the back is now considering using JSON ignore on the phone to protect GDPR. But then someone in the front adds a new field called address and forgets to put JSON ignore. It's a very dangerous game to play. So that's why we expose the data transfer objects. Make sense? We all know that. Good, done. So that's a very old principle of separating the contract from the implementation. The contract of a library 45 years ago had to be stable so that you can build on top of it. Just like Hope said, in the platform engineering, you want to rely on something, right? Whereas the implementation can continue to evolve. All right, to keep it simple. And yes, who in the house likes to write API documentation? Okay, who does it? Thank you. Excellent. So look around, that's why we're here. You never get the chance to meet so many smart people in the same room. Look around when I ask questions to see where you are in the majority, right? This is a very, very representative sample of the Java community in Europe, right? API design can hurt performance. We already saw how I threw an entity if I'm using object relational mapper, I'm playing with fire. Who uses Hibernate here? Hibernate. Half, thank you. If you throw out that, it might actually trigger queries to the freaking database. When it serializes a collection of children, it might automatically anyone had that? Ah, there you go, like 20 hands, excellent. Then you have 1 million items in the database, and you only expose this get by ID. Can you guess what can go wrong? Someone will have a list one day, a list of IDs. And what would they do?
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
The famous, the one and only, worst possible practice in performance, calling network over the loop. If you have 10,000 elements in the list, you just spent at least 20 seconds waiting for this to complete. This is game over, at least. So what I want you to do is to expose like bulk retrieves. Get product with these IDs, right? Makes sense? But there is a limitation of the URL length. So next thing you do, you can do a post. Victor, you are retrieving with post. How dare you? Fielding is gonna hunt you with a sniper. Fielding is the author of REST. He's gonna hunt you down. It's a post and you are retrieving. How dare you? Good point. It's a post. I should create, not get with post. But that allows me to put in my body as much IDs as I want. Beautiful. Guys, how about having the body in a get? Will that work? Who believes that this will work? Who believes it will not work? I also learned that get doesn't have a body, right? Until 2021, that someone changed the rough RFC. Someone went very dark. It was a dark night, and they changed the RFC so that you click the link, you get there. That you get can now carry a body. I will not use this body if I play over internet. Who knows what proxy is old and drops the body? But if I have in my internal intranet, give it a shot. Why not? Okay. Oh, and then there is another one. Proxying responses. Who here is doing microservices? That's fewer than I expected. I think more than half, but definitely. So you are here, and there's someone in the back that has the data, and then the client calls you, and what do? You call them. You get their data. You don't do anything with the data. You don't use it. You just turn. There you go. I insist. It's very important. Proxying means you don't do anything with the data. You just take it as it is. You don't format it, rephrase it, re-encapsulate. No, just there you go. Sorry. Like API gateway is the case, yes, but that's another. That's a API gateway is a good example. I mean, that's the boundary between the intra and the extra world. That's a very powerful pattern. Use that. But I'm talking about other microservices, not the edge API gateway that do this. By the way, who can read this diagram? Raise your hand. I mean, for who of you is this familiar? I only see 10 hands. I am now suffering a little depression. I saw more than half of you deploying microservices. I see 10 hands, 20 maybe in the room. We have a problem. What is this, guys? Distributed trace going between systems. If you don't have it, do not deploy microservices in production. It's a blocker for me. I will show stopper. I can't deploy. I don't have this. Until you have a centralized distributed tracing system like Zipkin or others, or if you are in cloud, they should offer you. Until I can see that, I do not deploy in production. I'm not done. Not done. Definition of done, I should have this. What does this mean? A equals B, B equals C. And time flows from left to right, which means that A waits for B, which waits for C. Beautiful. Because it's proxying, right? What I can do there is very simple. You can let the A call directly B and C. Make sense? You have the first, okay, I should maybe explain this better. Only 20 hands, what the heck is going on? Why am I so involved? Part of my workshops, as a follow-up consultancy, I offer several hours of free consultancy. And they call me for various reasons, refactoring, tuning. They call me, one of the biggest telecoms in my country, call me for a session of how to optimize some microservice flow. And I asked them, do you have this picture? And they said no. And I said, thank you, call me when you have it. 1 month later, yes, you don't need me anymore. Why? You figured it out.
Well, anyway, let me say you're welcome for the wonderful world you know. Hey, it's okay.
And then what they realized when they saw this picture is that they can do this. Huh? Exactly. What does that mean? 50% less time. What just happened? A called B and C in parallel. Boring if you see the picture, correct? Impossible to know if you don't have the picture. Right? So maybe another point to take away from REST API design is that you should have trace IDs enabled. Propagating OpenTelemetry trace ID with baggages to all your clients coming from queues or REST APIs, going further on queues or REST APIs. Ask ChatGPT. What? Do I really want to go there? To the best functional programming language in the world? This is where business ideas get born, my dear, my fellow geeks. This is where business people prove that they can do money with some idea. And then we come along and we want to automate. Anyone working for a bank in the house? Thank you. Then you know what I mean. We want to automate. And they say, but we have Excel. And they have features in Excel that they love. The famous is this. When you click on the column and it shows you all the possible values for that column. Do I smell a select distinct? And they will come to you and they will ask you for this feature. Because Excel has it. So we come along to automate some flows, some data-intensive flow, information-intensive flows. And the first thing that happens is that we fall in this mindset of having data in, data out. We all think that. So let's see this example. I have a get, which returns me the inventory item DTO. And this is the inventory item DTO. Don't read it yet. But then the same DTO is also used in the create flow. There was a sound, uh-oh. Exactly. What can go wrong? Come on, uh-oh, tell me. No, not field injection. No, don't go that dark. Come on. ID. What the heck does the ID do in this payload when you create? And now the client starts thinking, oh, so I'm the one who assigns IDs? But they are numbers, not UUID. How the hell would that ever work? And they freak out. The IDs we assign from a sequence, from something in the backend, right? And there are more than ID. Come on, hit me. Creation date. What else? Supplier what? Not ID, the name, you mean. Think, what else? The ones in the bottom, yeah, okay. So those in the bottom don't make sense when you create it, right? They only make sense when you read it. Interesting. So the client is confusing for the client, the contract is confusing for the users, and it's confusing for me, the server side, because I will not know. Why is the supplier name always null in this flow? You see my point? And you're gonna start hunting for like forensic, like why? What should I do? Obviously, please. Different DTOs, thank you. I actually heard someone say that if I see a class ending in DTO, I reject the PR. They should end in request or response. Ah, au fromage. And awful. And then this. And then this request only has 4 fields, and then I can add annotations, not null and not empty, not blank, standard things in Java since 20 years ago, right? To get the validation done there. In the DTO package, yes, okay, good. All make sense here? Make sense? Right? Have you ever showed off, like bragged about something you did? Like, oh, I'm super smart. Let me brag. I just did CQRS. Huh? CQRS comes from command query responsibility segregation, we like to call it, separation, my friend. Technically, that means commands are the flows that write, the queries are the flows that read, and CQRS comes to say that it's okay to use a different data model on these flows. We just applied it, but the problem is that when we start a project, we all start with the mindset of Excel. That we read, update, create, delete. It's perfectly fine at the beginning, but as things get complex, at some point you realize this doesn't work anymore for you. So what you do? Because in the read flows, you're going to aggregate more data. You will do some sum over partition by. You're going to do more joins, more fetches, whatever. Things are more complex. You retrieve more, and you are deeply concerned of speed. When we read, the most important always is speed. How fast can you get there? Right? When you write, however, it's a different story. You enter the slow thinking move. I just pretended I gear shifted my car, but I don't have a gear shifter since many, but still, you get the point. Slow down, let's think. How should I change the data so that to preserve the consistency of my domain data? Oh, right? Different mindset, different models, right? So CQRS says it's okay to use different read and write models. So we just did that at the API level, where request is to, in my case, the get item response is the query. Get item request is the command. Make sense? Give me a finger. The big one, please. Excellent. Thank you so much. And then the Hibernate friends in the room. If I see in a pull request for implementing a search, select E, and the rest is gone from user, and then you continue where and you add your criteria to filter, I would reject your pull request. Ever heard of Vlad Mihalcha? He will also reject your pull request. Telling you that he wrote the Java hypersistence, I have a moment. Yeah, very good book about GPA performance. And if he sees you getting a full entity, it will tell you no. Why not? you bring all the fields where you only need 2 of them. So you project what you need in a DTO. There are many ways, framework specific, Spring projections, all sorts of kung fu. But the idea is you read with a model which is different than the one that you use when you change the data, right? And it's perfectly okay. When you change it, you enter the slow thinking move and you bring the domain model in your hand and you manipulate it. Very well. Anyone of you doing the onion or hexagonal architecture? Onion or hexagonal architecture, domain-driven design inspired. Okay. That means that you can bypass your domain with a call straight to the repository to fetch exactly the things that you need. Long story, but in a nutshell, that's the point. Right. But Victor, we want more performance. Even more. Push harder. What's next? Well, next you meet this line. The consistency line. If you want to work faster or be more available, you always meet this line. I won't go now to talk about the CUP theorem and all the ways it is incorrect. Sorry. I won't talk about CUP now today. It's not the theme. But the point is, if you want to go even faster than that, you can store in one repository, but read from another one. So you write to an SQL or Sukili. Sukili. This is how you pronounce. You write to a Sukili database. Sorry. You write to a Sukili or to Kafka or to some event stream, let's say, and then that's where you write, but you read from another place, maybe in memory directly, from Redis Memcached, maybe from Elastic, from Mongo. I met a team that were preparing the JSON responses as a string and storing the strings pre-formatted in Mongo. So if you ask for the response, yes, of course. It's already there. Right? Also, materialized view. Anyone remember the days? Materialized view, you had to update them every hour, day. God help us all. Because this means delays in the propagation of changes. And if you insist on this, you get to where Greg Young wants to take you, into the distributed CQRS hell, in which you have different microservices, maybe, different deployments, one reading, one writing. And there is a tiny, I won't explain this diagram, it's too much for after lunch during siesta. But there is a Kafka here, or a change, data capture. There is something migrating changes asynchronously. I will repeat that, asynchronously. Good. Have you heard of Martin Fowler before? He invented microservices? Not quite, but he brags. Many systems fit well with the notion of Excel. This is not exactly his word, but good enough. Adding distributed CQRS, the previous slide, to such a system can add complexity, lower productivity, and add risk, even if you have a ninja team. Don't do that until you have super strong load on read, or you want to somehow make it available. Long story. We can talk about CQRS one day. But the point is, it's a pattern, right? To separate the commands from the queries, CQRS. Fun. Put is a command, right? Because it changes, right? It writes. Should put return data? Who in the room returns data in the response to a put? Yay, 10 to 15%. Why. So they want to change, and you give them that data back. I actually witnessed a security breach because of that. I can't go into details, of course. Can you imagine how many NDAs I have back home with 150 companies? Only actually, it's a folder with PDF. Anyway, the point is that I need strong arguments for the put to return data. I will not accept to return unless you can demonstrate why you need that. Because very often it's just laziness. Right? I mean, what's so hard? Sometimes you know what happens? On the front end, there is another team. I would repeat, another team. Not your team. Another team. And it's too much friction to tell them to do another call to get. Many times it's just laziness, right? Or some organizational problem. So try not to return data from put, unless you have strong arguments why you want to do that. Don't just by default do it. Ooh, yes. What's wrong in this picture? Don't read everything at once. Just, I have an edit a screen, yes? This is a screen to edit an inventory item. There is name in here, description, supplier, the cost, the stock, the status, and the deactivation reason. What's wrong here? I'm leaking, yeah, but if I'm talking to my back office, I sequential identifiers are not really a vulnerability, but it's interesting discussion there. Yes, correct. What else? Again, sorry, deactivation. Why is this in the screen if it's still active? Correct, thank you. What else? These are the two obvious ones, but there is one more subtle, but much more dangerous. The stock. What's wrong with the stock? The stock should be not calculated. No, no, no. The stock is very volatile is the perfect word. So if one, by the way, do you know, right, why people buy things online today? Because of fear of missing out. The main reason, FOMO. And you have then this salesperson talking for hours with ChatGPT on how to increase FOMO when they sell their chair, whatever they want to do. Huh? And they will, yeah, long discussion with AI, 30 minutes, right? And meantime, of course, the stock goes down. What will happen if he clicks update? In the worst case, he gets fired. The developer gets fired. You can be sued by the consumer protection that you promised to have stock, but you don't. You override the stock. Okay. Right, that's bad. We never do that. There are two ways. I won't go into details. I'm just going to scratch them a bit. One is called optimistic locking. The other one is called pessimistic locking. Both have trade-offs. What's important to understand is that optimistic locking is easy to implement, but a bit frustrating for the users. Someone else already changed this item. You son of a, you were too slow. And if you really want to get him angry, you should refresh the page so he loses all the changes. Yeah. Then he will come to the office. Where is Victor? Where is Victor? Right? And pessimistic says item is currently under-edited by Victor. Both have trade-offs, right? You get the point with the picture, you get the point. Now, how you implement it is a long story. Right? Good. Now, the key here, as usual, is humans. Any one of you, I'm curious, I'm really curious to, do you see how many questions I ask you? I'm so honored to be in front of you guys. How many did any of you ever sat next to the, do you know what the power user is? Like the user that knows everything, right? That user. And sat right next to the guy, or he or she, and just watched the user click the app. Anyone did that? Beautiful, woohoo, thank you, I was expecting. It's like 10% or 15% that actually sit next to the users. Some of you can't do this, of course, but those of you who can, brilliant. Because then you will notice that the users will never edit in the same time the first three. They only edit those three together, and they never change all the fields, you know? This is basically looking at the user intention as the typical user actions and saying, what do you normally do with the app? Well, I can sell by phone. I can change this. I can change stock because I sold or I got a refill and so on, right? If you work in the e-commerce industry, when I showed you the screen, you should already tell me, Victor, but this is information coming from 7 microservices. What the hell they are doing in a single page? Depending on how advanced you are in the micro. All right, so you have designed this new screen in which you have a checkbox, my friends. And if you click the checkbox, what happens? Pop up for the reason he remembered, bravo. But why did you stop selling it? If you want to change the price, there you go. If you want to change the stock, there you go, to sell. How many do you sell? 2. If you want to change this, is it clear what I'm doing? I broke the resource into smaller resources. A typical thing we do when we see a lot of data which is somewhat unrelated. The advantages are obvious, right? The API now tells a story. I can put the details, which is set the details. I can sell. I'll get back on that in a second. Less concurrency risk because they can change different things in parallel. You're not 100% safe. But it's less chance to overlap the changes on accidentally, let's say. Right? simpler on the server, good. And but the problem is, they tell me, Victor, yes, but that means I need to file a request to the front-end team. Yeah? Guess who's back? How about full stack? Who is full stack in here? Woohoo! More than half, far more than half. Thank you. That's most productive. You don't have to throw the, yeah, good. The more APIs, of course, more endpoints, more to maintain in a sense, right? And you could argue that this can be a bit, how would I know how to cut it? Never too early. Grant yourself time to see how things evolve, and then when you decide, it's very hard to change your mind afterwards, really. Right? And more screen, and you need to care for the users. Good. So congratulations for those of you who said yes. But there is a problem here. Victor, is that a verb? Ew. Ew. What's wrong with the verb? Is that a resource? Is that a noun? Is that a thing? Yeah? So what? So one of the pitfalls is the religious rest fallacy. Anything you do religiously will get you into trouble. Starting from design principles, solid, anything at all can get you into troubles. So, if you play religious rest, you're going to have most of your complexity in the put, the rest in the post. And that's it. Right? And also the API will lack semantics. They will not know what to change. And it's hard to work for the clients also. So what I just did in the previous slide, I crafted sub-resources to change parts of the data and enhanced it with actions. But do not take away from this that Victor hates REST. No. When REST, you feel it limits your semantics, there is this wonderful, Julien Topsu, brilliant talk about domain-driven designed APIs in which they are semantic rich with actions and domain business language. There's a fun conflict between the get, put, post, delete and domain-driven. Rich objects with behavior, and then at the end, get, put, post, delete. You know, this impedance he explores better than we do here. Anyone used patch? Woohoo, too much, 10, 20%, good. REST patch, you patch an item to change arbitrary fields inside that item. And then the payload is very fun. You say, I want to change the status, so there you make it inactive. You want to change the reason, I want to kill the description. You put it null. And the fields you don't want to touch, you don't mention. Good luck parsing this with Jackson. Remember, some people found a way with having all the fields optional. It's a quantum physics with 3 states, absent, null, or present. Where are we going? That's why some people invented the standard. It's called JSON patch, in which you can transmit to the backend what you want to do. I want to set this, I want to remove that. Make sense? But why I'm angry is not how you parse it, but because, again, lacks semantics. Why does the deactivation reason, status, and description change at the same time? What is the intent of my API? What is the underlying action that I'm trying to? It's lacking that. It's just a random. So if you are using patch, why don't you let your users write in your database directly? They can change anything, right? Or maybe you want to start a dark game in which you fill your code with if statements, if the new version, if that field is changed, but with, boom, criminally complex too. What I like more, put for the deactivate. Right? Make sense? Give me a finger. Thank you, thank you, thank you, good. So by studying the user actions and thinking from in the shoes of the client, you can further break down your API when things get complex. Don't over-engineer. Vivek, are you in the room? This is for Vivek. Vivek approached me 2 hours ago and told me, Victor, do you talk anything about error handling? And I was like, uh-oh. Like always, right? We always forget to handle the errors or to think about the errors because we are so happy. Wishful thinking. The same way ChatGPT will never think about the error conditions, isn't it? You have to push hard to get it to think about a huge prompt just to, interesting. Yeah, what does 500 mean? Something red. It depends. Ladies and gentlemen, where is it? Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the architect in the room. It depends. Yes. Now really, what can it be? 400, it's your fault. Correct? Basic. But have you ever called an API and they said 400 and nothing else? Boom. What do you do? I'll tell you what you do. You call them. You go to them. FBI, open up! So the 400 should tell your client what the hell is going on, what was wrong. And not just the first error. He knows, they know. Not just the first error. Oh, he's missing the name. And then you put the name. Oh, it's also missing the email. Put the email. Oh, he forgot the phone. No, give them this decent, an array of all the, it's 20 lines of Spring Magic, and I bet Quarkus copied it. You can just convert the errors that you get from the annotations, not null and friends, into a well-behaved structure that the clients can understand. Make sense? It's just caring for your clients and for yourself. FBI, open up! Good. 401 is that you can't touch this. What is it? What is this?
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
We are taking fire! Call air support! Come back later! Or don't. Correct? Just fire again. 4-2 is very fun. Too many requests, I think it's called. Something with has to do with fairness among your clients. If you expose VVV on the internet, on the wild, be sure you know what 4-2 is. And of course, there will be some 400, which means a bug. Yeah. But you provide the UUID, you say how nice you are to the users. In the JSON, you put an UUID in there, at least that was in the body, the UUID, the string. And then you print that in your log, of course, and they can, of course, right, to be able to track down what the error was. Okay. Now, there are times in which you want to be very kind to your clients. Not always. But maybe you have your own front end. Maybe you are full stack, and you have front and back. And in front of you, of your API, is not anyone, it's just your front end. By the way, I don't have time to go there, but there is a distinction between the public and private REST APIs. A private REST API would go to my own single page app, whereas a public API I want to expose to someone else. This is the interface segregation principle in action. I don't want other systems to be coupled to my REST API that my front end uses because that API is very volatile for the same argument, that it changes all the time. So if in front of me is my own front end, I can tell them error code in uppercase with underscores. And they can then translate the error in something beautiful. Make fields red. Or maybe I can do that. I can roll up my sleeves, go to front end. By the way, the moment you put structures in the response, you need a schema, correct? Because someone would build on that. And one more interesting thing, guys, have you heard of the word idempotency? Idempotency, fancy word. It means you are allowed to retry. Which one are you allowed to retry? No, from these errors. Besides the put, you are right with the put, but here, in these errors, which one? 422.503. Correct? You don't know, 400 is debatable. But the others, the above, it doesn't make any sense to get another 401 back. Doesn't make any sense to get another 400, you're stupid. No. Huh? Good. Vivek, good. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. It is Vivek's. Yeah? So, the round of applause for Vivek. Exactly. Vivek, thank you. Woo! Summary. REST API design pitfall. So do this if you want to have more work tomorrow. Breaking change your API every week. And then maintain 7 parallel major versions for 10 years. You have more work to do. You can get a loan. It's called mortgage-driven development in the UK. Data is free. Take it all. Expose your domain model in the API so that everyone can see your masterpiece. Force your client to do 4 loops and call you in the loop. Mwah. Reuse the same DTO, forget, put, post, delete, all the delete. Large put, in which you can, if no one knows what is the intent, perfect, it will confuse everyone. Return data from put, yes. Every time you write a put from tomorrow, you return data, yes? I'm not sure who is going to watch this, so let me insist a bit. I mean, you know sarcasm? Yes? Go religious about REST. Burn any developers who doesn't believe in REST. Okay. Don't think about errors. It never happened. Done. Good. So, REST. No, not yet. What's next? 4 things for you. Action points. Stalk me right now as I go out. Kill me with questions. Hunt me down on email afterwards. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. I don't post shit. I just post the events that I'm doing for the community. If you want to be part of a discussion with much smarter people than me here, much smarter, join the community, the Zoom meeting, 100 people live every month to argue about stuff. Actually, I actually did this, but in a weaker form for the community a couple of weeks ago. And if you want to private some, this commercial. Guys, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you a wonderful conference in the next day. Thank you.
All systems are nominal. Initialize Genesis sequence.